Hello everyone and welcome to the latest video in our tax year end planning session. Today we're going to talk a bit about ISAs and the main differences and the main ways you can use them to maximise your allowances going forward. So the first thing to note about ISAs and a lot of the things we're talking about in this series is that they are a use them or lose them allowance. Each tax year you get an individual allowance of £20,000. If you don't use that by the end of the tax year, the 5th of April, that allowance is then gone and you can't mop it up later on. So it's really important that you do make this planning, tax year end planning, and you know that if you don't use it, you will lose it. So the first thing to say is there are several different types of ISAs. Most people have probably heard of ISAs as a concept. They've been around since 1999 and are now kind of a bedrock part of savings and the UK savings makeup. Now, there are four main types of ISAs you can invest in at the moment. We're going to briefly go through them and then talk about a bit of the differences between them all. So as you can see on the screen here, you've got cash ISAs, as it suggests. This is a simple account that invests in cash, can be with a bank or a building society or an online platform. You've then got stocks and shares ISAs. So this is a tax efficient vehicle of investing your money, but you can invest it into a wide range of things like company shares, government or corporate bonds, property and other assets. You've then got an innovative finance ISA. This is a higher risk option, which involves peer-to-peer lending. And then finally, lifetime ISAs, which are a new form of ISA that is introduced in 2017. And these are mainly geared to helping people to get on the property ladder or to save for their retirement. A good bonus of a lifetime ISA is that you do get a 25% bonus of any money added from the government. Now, many of you will have ISAs, but the important thing to look at is what type of ISAs do you have and are they aligned to your savings goals? Now, research has been done by HMRC and it actually suggests that 81% of people each year go straight for the cash ISA. So 81% of subscriptions in each tax year gets invested into cash ISAs and only 19% into a stocks and shares ISA. However, is a cash ISA the right thing for you? As we talk about of all clients, cash is a very important part of your financial planning and should make the foundation to that. However, what the problem occurs is when cash becomes a long-term savings vehicle, because as we all know, over time, inflation will erode the value of your cash. So what you need to ask yourself is three very important questions. Have you held your savings in cash ISAs for more than 5 years? Do you know what rate of interest you're getting on your cash ISA savings? And when did you last review this? If you're finding that you've had that cash ISA sitting there for 5 years plus, it might not be the best place for your funds. And now what I'm going to do is pass over to Nick, who's going to talk a bit more about the decision you have to make between a cash and a stocks and shares ISA.
Thanks, Sam. As Sam was saying, it's a really important decision to make, but many people simply make the decision that they need to invest in an ISA and head straight for cash. Now, when the ISAs first came out, that was probably a sensible decision, because if you had money in a normal bank account, you would pay tax on that. So it was really good to shield that taxation by putting it in that cash in an ISA. However, since 2016, you're allowed to earn interest in normal cash accounts without paying tax. So as a basic rate taxpayer, you can earn £1,000 a year in interest and not pay tax. As a higher rate taxpayer, that's £500. And with the rates of interest on cash at the moment, that's a lot of money you'd need to have in cash before you pay any tax. So as Sam was saying, is this money you're going to sit on for quite a long time? In the past, lots of people would sit on cash ISAs because they knew it was tax efficient. They wouldn't want to do anything with it. So it would sit there and stay in cash for a long term. And therefore you might miss out on returns that you could get by the other common type of ISA, which is a stocks and shares ISA. Now, what a lot of people feel is you've either got cash or you've got very high risk individual shares when you're looking at ISAs. And that's not the case. You can invest in any number of investment solutions. It could be, certainly through St James's Place, you'd invest in funds, and those funds could be absolutely in company shares, be that UK or globally, but they could also be in property. It could be in fixed interest like gilts or corporate bonds, and you could also invest in alternatives. So there are many options that aren't just stocks and shares. The key thing, as Sam was saying, it's about understanding what you're trying to achieve in the medium to long term. If you're going to use your ISA allowance and sit and leave that money in the ISA for a long term, 5 years plus, then absolutely you should be looking at a stocks and shares ISA, because the time should give you enough opportunity to create growth, and that growth should be beyond what you would achieve in the by having it in cash, and therefore you're shielding much more money from the tax man. And as long as you've got enough money in cash to look after your short-term emergencies or any short-term expenditure that you've got planned, then you can afford to put money into an investment ISA and hopefully achieve greater returns over the medium or long term. The key thing is you should absolutely have sound advice when you're looking at this decision. Lots of people simply buy a cash ISA because they know it's the end of the tax year, they've got to do it. But you really should sit down and take advice on what's the best ISA for you. Is it cash or is it investment? And if it's investment, what's the best way to generate the appropriate returns for yourself? So that would be my advice, is sit down with your advisor and come up with the best solution for you. Right, Scott, I'm going to hand over to you now, and you can talk us through the junior ISA.
Yeah, thanks. Of course, there's another variation of an ISA, which is obviously the junior ISA. Something worth reflecting on for the clients who have children or grandchildren. It's a great way to help our kids, grandkids save towards things like education, getting a first car, or even towards getting them onto the property ladder at a later date. One thing is things called child trust funds, which were available for children born between the 1st of September 2002 and the 2nd of January 2011. These have now been replaced by junior ISAs, and you can transfer these child trust funds into junior ISAs. Something that's really confusing is that the child trust funds were actually placed in a lot of bank accounts and building society accounts. And obviously this is for the longer term, and as Nick says, if it's going to be for a term of 5 years plus, you know, we really should be looking to create more growth from that, putting it into stocks and your ISA that would help your children later on down the line. These, as it says in the slide there, these do need to be set up by a parent or a guardian. Anyone can contribute. You can contribute a maximum of £9,000 per year. And again, much like the ISAs, the gains are free of income and capital gains tax. And your children or grandkids need to be under 18 years old. So that's a little extension to it for anyone who's wanting to think about that. I'm now going to pass you back over to Sam.
Thanks, Scott and Nick. That's really it for today. I hope you all found that very interesting and useful, and can see a bit about how you can utilise your ISA allowances in a more efficient way to make your money work a bit harder for you over the medium to longer term. I hope you all stay safe and well, and we'll be in touch soon. Thanks. Bye.